So let's take a look at this really quick, and we'll start off with Kim's opinion since she is the guest here. It's a total free-for-all in Eagle Pass right now. Mass illegal crossings taking place for over an hour and a half, almost 2 years to the day. We saw 15,000 Haitians. Remember, they were complaining about the people whipping them. You had the fraud squad staying up there. How could they treat these people so inhumane? And then they put them on a plane and sent them back to Haiti. Just saying. Haitians under the bridge in Del Rio. We now have thousands of predominantly Venezuelans gathering under Eagle Pass Bridge. Here they are. Kim, I want to get your opinions right off the bat on how we fix this problem. We've heard RFK talk about closing the border because it's a humane thing to do. That the cartels have a rape tree. They take advantage of people. They're advertising everywhere. Still, according to the Border Services Protections Agency, 82% of the people are still coming from Latin America. Mm-hmm. Even though we had a day where we see a lot of people from Azerbaijan, Africa, and whatnot. What is your suggestion? Do you think that closing the border immediately is going to help the situation, prolong it, or actually be a good fix?
Well, I would have some questions first about this. One, why do we not want these people in the country? So, look, like I'm all about having secure borders. I'm not saying we need to have open borders, but I think that the first question we should ask is what is the actual problem with all of these people coming into the country to begin with? So I can
answer that.
Well, what is it? Because right now what we know is
lack of resources, right?
We can't get workers. I mean, try hiring a contractor or somebody to come to your house to fix your roof right now. Yeah. There's no one available to do any work. So why can't we have workers in the country? If we have plenty of work, which we do, because construction, all the builders out there are saying, we don't have enough guys. We don't have enough guys. This is what I keep hearing from everybody. We don't have enough guys. We don't have enough guys. Well, there's a bunch of guys trying to come in and they're wanting to work. Yeah. So what exactly is the issue? Yeah. Why can't we issue them work
Kim,
permits?
They're sending us their worst. They're criminals.
All the stuff that we played was a bunch of people in New York and Chicago being set up in hotels and housing. And I never heard anybody, even people don't want borders closed. They love hiring people to do any of their work.
Right.
But all the stuff we were showing was that room full of black people going, why are you putting them right here?
Mm-hmm. In Chicago, right?
Yeah. I don't think that's the same thing, is it? And also, this is like some kind of coordinated, I don't know who's behind it, but somebody's coordinating. Right now is the time to come, and they're making sure people get here. Yeah. I mean, take your pick of who might want to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's piggyback on what you said, Kim, over there, because this is something people talk about, like, why are they coming? You know, and if I ask my mother, who's here right now, I love you, Mom, happy birthday, she would say that, well, they're coming because Biden told them to come. I think it's different than that. I believe that the fact that they did have the border sealed up for a little while when Trump was there, AMLO, the president of Mexico, actually used that labor, that cheap labor, for a lot of infrastructure and projects in Mexico, including the trains that are now opening up over there. I think it's a little bit more nefarious, a little bit more sinister. I don't want to say it's hidden in the background, where I think the ruling class, the elites, and the 1%ers want these people coming in for cheap labor. And that's something that's not talked about.
Yeah, right. That's not talked about. Right now, we're just hearing that there's an unprecedented number of people at the border, crossing the border every single day, which is true. Mm-hmm. Since 2021, we had, I think it was a little bit higher in 2021 than it is right now, but it's about the same. So we're getting a lot of people crossing over. I think it's a problem if the government's going to be putting them up in hotels or giving them resources.
But it's always temporary, right?
Yeah, but why? Look, if you're an immigrant and you're coming in, if you're a refugee or whatever, you know, if you're just thinking, I'm going to go to America and make a better life, my guess is you would have enough. I mean, you figure you're going to figure it out. I mean, you're going to get there and you're going to figure it out. I don't know if I would expect the government to give me something to help me while I figure it out. Yeah. So the question is, what was the plan these people had when they got here? Did they have a plan? And if they did, let them go do that plan. I mean, maybe they have relatives or friends that we're going to crash with on their floors. Like, do we need to be giving them hotel rooms? Do we need to be giving them all these things?
Well, the plane ticket, the hotel rooms, the phone, it's all minimal, right? If they want to keep that phone on, they're going to have to pick up the bill, have to pay for it. The plane ticket gets them where they got to go. The extra little money they get is just to help them out. Most of them do have a plan. They call a relative. Right. They call a friend. They immediately go to work. Now, the argument is, and this is something that RFK talked about his thing the other day, while he's doing his mentality is we have to close the border because it's a compassionate thing to do, because these people, they're going to get this trip that they're making. And we got a letter. Somebody wrote us an email saying that they made that trip and it was awful to make that trip, but they knew what was going on. And it was like leaving that burning building because of American foreign policy in their country.
Look, I don't believe an influx of cheap labor. that's going to harm people. I knew people did construction for quite some time, especially upstate New York, and that destroyed a lot of their businesses, the massive influx. So I don't know, oh, we can't get guys. I don't know if that's like that. Who's that Australian guy that was like, we need lower jobs so the workers feel pain. So like, I think anybody, I don't see why they should have to pay. First of all, if you want to close the bases, you got to close the border first. You should, I mean, that's just logically you have to do that. You're not going to punish regular people where their resources are being strained. And we're like, well, when we close the bases, we'll stop punishing you. They shouldn't have to eat that punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why you start with that first, because you need them on your side for that base thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have no idea how screwed up that is.
Yeah.
I would say most people don't.
But I think what Kim
they
is
know when
hitting
someone's
at,
taking their job and lowering the wages. That's a lot of jobs. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not going to speak for Kim, but what I would say is that there are a lot of people don't do those jobs anymore. Our generation, the next generation that's coming up, Johnny's age and all them, they're not doing the construction work job. They're not doing the landscaping job. They're not cleaning pools or doing the work that most of these people do.
By the way, here, for example, I don't know if you know a lot of Mexicans here. They're not real into illegal immigrants at all.
They're
not
like,
real into it.
They're worse than some of the white people.
Yeah, it's much more extreme. So
the Latin people that they're like,
do you know who Willie Barcena is?
No,
he's a comic. He's like a legend, dude. He's been around forever. And my friend George. So Willie, he was an illegal immigrant. Mm-hmm. And my friend George's dad was a coyote. He told me.
Yeah, a
Mexican travel agent is what he called it.
Yeah,
and they were making me laugh, talking about how mean they were to any immigrant. I think he wasn't even illegal, Willie. But he's just an immigrant. So he's going to school in like Daisy Dukes and cowboy boots. And he's like, yeah, the other kids weren't nice about it.
I'm sure they were.
Like, the amount of, it's not like,
if
you're not from here, and I'm not from here, I had no idea that politics of the racial politics here. And they're not what people on the East Coast think at all. Okay. Mexicans on the East Coast, that's a whole. I remember being like, "What is the?" I had no idea there was such a long-standing thing going on in California compared to where I'm from.
Yep. So you're of the thought process that too much migration is hurting the labor force.
Look, in general, why are they coming? Sure, but why all at once now? What's the where?
I think it's always being a problem. They're just highlighting it more now. The conservatives in Congress are highlighting it more.
This is the other thing. I say let people in too, but you got to keep track of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's too many to keep track of, that's like real dumb. Yeah. And is going to get a lot of people victimized. I don't think it's QAnon to say a bunch of them people. We do have the most child trafficking in America.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I just think that what they need to do is fix this situation in that they need to figure out a better way to get the people here in a legal way. So obviously this is a problem. People crossing the border in droves. They're not supposed to be here. We didn't expect them to be here. But we also do have a labor shortage in this country. But that could go one of two ways. One is that we're used to getting things really, really fast, cheap, and easy. Mm-hmm. Right now, we have to wait a little longer. That means we also have to pay more money. So that does raise wages for the people who are doing those jobs because they're saying, look, I'm backed up by 6 months. If you want me, you're going to have to pay more. So that does help with the wages for people here doing labor jobs as it is. But immigration's a complicated issue. It's always going to be really complicated. But there needs to be a better way for us to be giving permits to people to come and work and then have them go back to where they came from. And a lot of them don't want to stay here. If you ask these people, a lot of them are not like, oh yeah, I'm here to live forever.
No, they send their money home and then they go catch up to it where they've been sending the money back to, and they go retire back home and live comfortably because they came here and worked. I mean, that's not everybody, but that's a decent amount of people.
Yeah, so we've just got to set up a better system. This is not a working system, obviously, because we do want to check the people out, make sure we're not getting child traffickers and rapists and all these other bad people that might be coming through. Mm-hmm. So we need to have some sort of system to check them. But we also need to have a better system for letting them in, and we don't. Right now, we're trying to. I mean, it's just a broken system altogether. But Congress won't do anything about it. Because Congress is the most ineffective branch of government.
That's why you got to appreciate Matt Gaetz for one reason. He's holding everything up. Now, there's a lot of things that he has on his list that I'm not crazy about, but there's things I want, and that's what we were hoping the squad fraud did to Nancy Pelosi.
Did you want more Ukraine support?
Now, see this, by the way, I just want to point this out real quick. These are mostly Venezuelans because there's a video, and they're like, Venezuela, right? So these are a large amount of Venezuelans. Venezuela happens to be one of the most sanctioned country. We tried to whack Maduro when Trump was in office.
Yeah, they could do that right now, considering we went. Did Biden have to go? Did somebody have to give a hand job for oil? like
yeah,
a year ago?
well, that was the thing. They started kind of letting up. The fact is that we knew the Saudi situation was getting out of hand. So then Biden started speaking to the Venezuelans
we
who
sent
want
that guy to suck up to Maduro after he got done saying he's not the real president.
Well, we still didn't give him. I don't think the 10 million in gold that they have that the British sees. I don't think they got it. But listen, because we have you for a limited amount of time, and I want to keep it expeditiously moving on.
Well, when was this?
This was just the other day.
And these are all Venezuelans? Well, that's because they just gave a bunch of, they just gave 500,000 Venezuelans. The Biden administration just this last week gave them, green cards and...
Yeah.
Ooh,
Cuba. They all got, like, basically the ability to stay, so they're all made legal. So
and these are not the Venezuelans that are, like, necessarily pro-United States. They're just looking for an opportunity because they're suffering over there because there's so many sanctions, and
I'd probably have a grudge
the oil.
if I was one of them.
Dude, when I give my opinions, it's coming straight from the horse's mouth, right? Me, Johnny, Fiorello have gone down Latin American countries. In Honduras was the one that was the most eye-opening because we heard people say that you guys interfered in our election, you removed our leader, so we went to America looking for our shit.
We sent one crazy guy in a boat to kill your president.
So here's the issue though when it comes to this too as well is that it could spin out of control. You start with one little issue and it spins out of control. Now I've said this for quite some time. The United States foreign policy apparatus and the United States government does not like AMLO, president of Mexico, because he's done so much over there for those people, right? And he's not necessarily playing ball with the United States, especially when it comes to lithium. So now we have this whole situation spinning out of control where you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's been decent on the Ukraine war, but I'm always suspicious about her because she still wants to build the military. This thought process that we're going to blame the cartels for all the problems of the fentanyl users in the United States. Meanwhile, Big Pharma is the one who got everybody hooked to opioids in the first place. And we don't want to, once again, the party of individual responsibility doesn't want to take responsibility for our own problems.
Who's the ones that we trained and they became the worst for a while until they broke into two? Basically, we did gain a function on a cartel, and then they've all been mutating to worse and worse cartels. They got Chapo, they didn't make it better. It actually made it a lot worse. You know when Sean Penn got Chapo caught? It actually destabilized the region more.
Yeah, well, I believe it did, but still, what's going on in Mexico is really overplayed, and the cartels have always had a relationship with the CIA. We know this from Iran-Contra.
But
that's how they hide all their money over here because they have help from Americans.
Dude, fentanyl, that's wild because that originally was coming out of China, right?
Well, they were saying that a lot of first of all, it's a synthetic type of opioid. So they would
recipe.
Yeah, so it was like they can get a lot of the stuff from China, but right now there's this whole theory that China, is now going back after the United States for what we did to them during the Opium Wars, and they're trying to kill us from within. I mean, it's like a Walter White story. So here's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying Washington is completely ignoring the invasion happening at our southern border, but is willing to send billions to fight a proxy war with Russia. At least she's better than Nikki Haley. Today, I announced I will introduce a declaration of war against the Mexican cartels. This is very scary now because they're talking about going into Mexico without the permission of the government at any time.
A sovereign nation?
Green Berets. Let's take a listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Charlie, today in Washington, D.C., we have President Zelensky came to the Capitol today, of course, talking to leaders with Washington, wanting billions and billions more dollars, Americans' hard-earned tax dollars, to go to a war in Ukraine, defending Ukraine's border, while at the same time, Washington, D.C. is completely ignoring the invasion happening at our border. There has been over 10,000 people invade Eagle Pass in the last 24 hours. This is unprecedented. Our country is under attack. And who is leading the attack, Charlie, is the Mexican cartels. And so I'm announcing on your show that I would like to get Washington to realize who our real enemy is to the American people, who's responsible for 300 Americans dying every single day from fentanyl, who's responsible for a multi-billion-dollar human trafficking and drug trafficking industry that directly affects the United States of America.
All right, I had enough of her. Kim.
First of all, her and Charlie, I mean, this is a nerd reference, but her and Charlie Kirk look like Elder Scroll NPCs. They're like bad graphics.
Let's put a bow on this really quick because this is something I said at Rage Against the War Machine. I said, thank you, Matt Gaetz, for presenting the end of the Ukraine war, saying let's defund the war. kind of similar to what Rand Paul tried to do in Afghanistan. That's what Matt Gaetz was doing. But I said, don't think we're okay with you ending a war against Moscow in Kiev and then starting another war with Beijing and Taiwan. And I feel that. And this is what makes me nervous about people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is another whole kind of regime change mentality where we go in and destabilize
they can
Mexico.
all say whatever goofy nonsense they want. What do?
Yeah.
So that's why I don't make
they
a false
usually
idol
do
of
this
them.
shit, though, when it comes to war. This is the crap they usually
do. You should never,
do.
ever have any faith in their, like, the personality part. I don't care what any of it, what did they do? So when they do the thing I like, cool. They can say whatever the hell craziness they want to say. What do they do? That's really all that matters. And everybody wants to make you hung up on that she's a wacky personality. You know, I can't get past Charlie Kirk's head. But I should be able to.
But at least, I mean, if you're going to be a warmonger, which all of them are, if you're going to be one, at least pick a problem that actually affects us. And at least the Mexico border, they're right. I mean, that actually affects everyday Americans' lives. That affects our economy. It affects our.
There's a stronger fake case to be made for Mexico.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't be going in and invading them by any means. You know, we shouldn't be declaring
this is better
war on
than
them.
Ukraine's.
I mean, look, nobody has
agree.
anything to do with Ukraine or China for that matter. But at least Mexico, there's an actual situation there. There's a real problem. There are tons of people, thousands of people coming in every day. So if you're going to be a warmonger, I suppose, then why not pick the cartels in Mexico that are right below our border that are actually maybe going to affect us?
The Zetas, now I remember, that's the group that was all like, we just trained them with our special forces techniques, and they realized they could be a way better cartel.
Right. That's all it always
They
is,
kicked
right?
off the most murderous.
But if we end up going to war in Mexico the way that she wants, you can expect a huge flood of Mexicans coming into the United States at that point.
Absolutely.
That would cause our immigration crisis to quadruple, if not
Are you saying she
up
didn't
10
think it
times.
through?
Yeah, she didn't. With that big noggin, you think.
Well, listen, my problem is that we never go after the actual problem. We already, it's always Band-Aid solutions, whatnot. The big problem when it comes to fentanyl, it comes to Americans dying, is the fact that they've been addicted to opioids and other drugs given to us by who? Big Pharma. It's once again,
why do we have
Big
fentanyl?
Pharma.
Because somebody, I love the, like, heroin. I didn't know that. I've learned recently that was the non-addictive alternative to morphine. That's where we got heroin from.
Yeah, I mean,
all of these, the same goddamn thing has been happening since they started making the plants into a pill.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, and Levittown, New York. Wow, that's a lot of dates. See you there.